Walkthrough of the grading worksheet. What I want you to do is try to apply the different regulatory styles to different descriptions. This is supposed to be an application of the ideas that different students have different needs, and you should be able to recognize or be looking for the different ways they are motivated. If a kid's doing their homework already and they enjoy it, or they have a higher reason than just a grade, you don't want to emphasize the grade for them. You want to appeal to whatever level of kind of reward works for them, whether it's emphasizing their personal identity, talking about the things that they value, or just trying to make it fun, tell about how, or try to convince them that learning is actually enjoyable, which it is. So, for example, Susie feels a lot of pressure to succeed because her mom often points out how much they have sacrificed for her to have this opportunity. This is the main reason why she does her homework. As we stated before, this is going to be an introjected type of regulation. She's doing it out of a sense of obligation. Samuel's parents have tried everything to get him to do his schoolwork, but nothing has worked. This would be a motivation, right, or non-regulation. He's not doing it. Sarah's always seen herself as a scientist, and even though it is not always enjoyable, she is committed to mastering the material and gains a lot of satisfaction from growing, right? The key here is that she sees herself as a scientist, meaning that is integrated, part of her identity. The next one, Katie completes her assignments and tries very hard because she loves seeing the gold stars next to her name on the board. She's doing it for the gold stars. That turns out to be an external or extrinsic regulator, right? So it's something not really internalized. She just likes the stars. Timmy finds a deep level of enjoyment when doing his science work and often continues to engage the material after his assignments are done. He just enjoys it, therefore it is intrinsic regulation. And finally, we got one left, right? Identify when asked why he does his homework. Billy indicates that it's all part of being personally responsible and doing your share to contribute to society. Values he had had since he was a wee lad. And that will bring us an identified regulatory style. Now, the next thing I'm going to ask you is, suppose that you are going to use grades as a motivator in this particular classroom with these students. And suppose that you are successful, meaning that you use them as a motivator and you get people to do it for the grade, right? Who will this help the most and who will this hurt the most? Well, the easy answer is that the person who is farthest to the left or closest to a motivation, and in this case, right, that's Samuel, he's not doing it. So if you get him to do it, right, you are actually moving him to the right on that continuum, that graphic towards intrinsic and internal regulation. When we think about who it's the most harmful for, right, that is the person who is farthest to the right already. Timmy already enjoys doing it. If you somehow get him to do it for the grade instead of because he enjoys it, you're actually hurting him. And this is something that Cohn will talk about in his paper that you're going to be reading. The final thing is that I want you to take a scenario and apply some feedback using those principles we've talked about. So suppose that you're teaching a unit on life science, and your daily goals are to have your students identify organisms as producers or consumers. You also want them to apply their knowledge of energy patterns to construct a food web from information about the organisms that you've given them in that food web. You have a student who succeeds at identifying producers and consumers, so it figures out who's who, but fails to make many of the connections that are needed to be present in the food web. On the student's paper, you write, "You missed many connections. Look more carefully next time." That's bad, right? So the first question is, what's wrong with this? In the space below, describe what's wrong and replace with what you would write. So what is wrong is that, one, it only focuses on weaknesses, is not clearly tied to learning goals, and it does not provide a clear way forward or an opportunity, really. So in order to address all that, you could write something like this. Right? You did it first of all, remember to align it to your objectives. So this is my feedback for objective 1, identifying things as producers or consumers. So I say, right, focusing on the good and the bad. You did a very nice job identifying the different consumers and producers. Well done. So there's the good. Do you think you could go even further and identify what type of consumers they are? Primary, secondary, or tertiary? All right, so now I am taking this skill and I'm trying to move them forward. Second thing, you seem to get the basic idea of connecting energy paths in the food web, but the important thing is that all of the connections between organisms have to be seen. So, right, they got some, but they missed some. And so I'm telling them, right, you got the basic idea, but here's the thing you need to work on. Let's try this again with a new ecosystem so we can see how everything is connected, underlining or emphasizing the everything, right? Now, in this way, I'm giving them a way forward, right? I could be more specific, and I could even give them, I might not want to do this because it depends on what other materials they have. But I will probably have to say something like, make sure that you identify all the indirect connections as well. My typewriter is bad. Well, as the direct connections. Reminding them that what they're probably missing are those indirect relationships where the fox eats the chipmunk who eats the grass or the seeds or the nuts, and they might be missing some paths in there. So that's it. There's one page to it, and I will want you to be able to do these same things for the actual exam. It'll be these same tasks. It'll be in a slightly different format because it will be on D2L. That's it.